How's it going, everybody? Doing a request here today. It's some GameCube mic sounds and rambling about Silent Hill 2. I'm always happy to talk about some Silent Hill 2. It's honestly probably still my favorite game of all time. I've talked about my top 4, 5, I think, in the past. It's usually NHL 94 at 5. Final Fantasy 3 is in there, or 6. 6 in Japan when it came out, 3 here. It was 3 here back in the day. Now it's been released a bunch of times as 6. On the Game Boy Advance and stuff. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine on the N64. I'm trying to think what 5 was. It might have been UN Squadron on the Super Nintendo. Anyway. Silent Hill 2. Obviously, I love the game. I do not have a physical copy of it anymore. I have the HD collection on the Xbox. It was like, I think it was 2020 actually. They had a deal. It was like $6.99. You get that one and the third one. I think you can like use different voices. I guess they did different voices for it. I just used the originals. Apparently there's supposed to be some issues with it. I honestly didn't notice anything. I didn't beat Silent Hill 2 on that. I originally played a bunch of it on the... I first saw it on the PS2 at a friend's house. And then I played it on a good amount on the original Xbox and didn't complete it. Then I got it on the PS2 again and beat it on there. I played through it again at another point, I think on the Xbox, like maybe 10 years ago or so, I don't know. It's an amazing game, and I'm not talking about like the gameplay aspect of it. The gameplay aspect of Silent Hill in terms of combat and stuff is not that good. It isn't. It's clunky. You know, there isn't a ton of combat in the whole game overall. You can avoid some enemies, you know, but it's not overwhelming the game in terms of combat. But I mean, Silent Hill 2, everybody knows. It's all about the story. My personal favorite video game story. A lot of people's personal favorite story in a video game. This game came out in 2001. And it was just crazy. It was like I hear people talking about like some games now or like came out recently, even like Last of Us 2 or the first Last of Us, some indie games and other games. Well, I think The Last of Us, both the stories are good in those games, and they're very well voice acted. It's really good. In my opinion, it doesn't hold a candle to Silent Hill 2. Like, Silent Hill 2 is nuts. You play James Sunderland. You play as James Sunderland, right? And you go back to Silent Hill. You have gotten a note from your wife to meet her in Silent Hill, the special place they used to go to. Problem is, his wife's been dead. I forget how long at that point. Might have been a year. Maybe 3. So James goes back. He's like, where did this note come from? He's trying to find his wife. And Silent Hill, I think it's like you gotta go to the hotel, right? And there's fog everywhere in the town. You start off in like a bathroom and then you make your way down to a cemetery, come across a character, Angela. She's also in Silent Hill for her own reasons. This is a cool thing that this game did. It's kind of like this. The town is just its thing. It's just there, the town. And it like lures people in, not lures them. They're compelled, kind of, I guess, to come in. Usually it's people who've done things. maybe not necessarily evil things, but things that they're conflicted about and stuff, and then you come back here. You come back to Silent Hill, and everything manifests out of your own brain. Like, another character, Eddie, James comes across, and James like, have you seen a red pyramid thing? He's talking about Pyramid Head. And he's like, I haven't seen that, but I've seen some crazy stuff. So it's cool because every character's seeing their own stuff. It's all stuff that's like manifesting out of their head. So the town's just there, kind of brings you in, and then your own mind starts to, the town brings to life kind of your own mind. And this is no sequel to the first one. The first one and the third one are connected. The third one's a sequel to the first one. There goes a helicopter. That doesn't happen often. The first one, the third one's a sequel to the first one. The fourth one has nothing to do with. The fourth one makes mention of some things also mentioned in Silent Hill 2, like Walter Sullivan and stuff. That actually plays a big part in Silent Hill 4. So 4 is like very loosely connected to 2, just with characters that were spoken about in notes that you never play as or ever see. But Eddie's in there for his reasons. I'm going to do some spoilers here, obviously, but and James is just, I forget what he was, what his job was. I don't know. He worked at some store. He wasn't like any kind of big wig. He wasn't a badass. He's just a dude, right? And that's what's kind of cool. Where it almost you can justify bad controls because he's not a fighter. He's a dude looking for his wife, and all of a sudden, his dead wife, all of a sudden, there's all types of creatures. Pyramid Head manifests. Here's a big spoiler already. Spoiler alert. His wife is dead, and she got sick. And James had to take care of her, and he couldn't deal with it anymore. And he suffocates her, he kills her. That's why Pyramid Head's there. Pyramid Head's like the executioner type that manifested from his guilt of killing his wife. And then you fight 2 of them towards the end. And the second one appears, because spoilers, you end up killing Eddie because Eddie's trying to kill you. Eddie's losing his stuff. Eddie killed a dog at one point. Eddie killed, I think, another person. Eddie's there, and he's messed up. Laura is also there, the girl, the little girl, who apparently knew your wife. But she doesn't see any monsters. Like, James is like, what are you doing here with all these monsters running around? She's like, what are you talking about? So she's seeing Silent Hill as it was when she was there. And also Maria. Maria is the exact opposite as Mary, but looks a lot like her, but has a completely different personality. She manifested it as well from James's mind for his want, for his, maybe what he wanted out of his wife, like something like that. And she has a DLC in, it was on the Xbox version, and then they released it on the Greatest Hits PS2 version, called Born from a Wish, where you play as her for a few hours, and she literally just like wakes up on a floor. Like, it's kind of a crazy thing. Like, she's like pretty much brought into a world, a nightmare world, where she keeps getting killed repeatedly throughout the game by Pyramid Head. Pretty much telling James, you killed your wife, and now she's gonna keep getting killed, So she's like, oh my God, she was born from his wish, which is crazy, and then it plays into that. But you have to help her a bit. You follow her, kind of escort her for a bit around town. Like I said, and then you fight the 2 Pyramid Heads because now a second one's appeared because you killed somebody else. And you don't beat him, you just run around and you shoot at him and stuff. You fight 1 Pyramid Head early in the hotel, and you pretty much just have to wait it out. You can shoot him and speed it up, you wait it out. And the sirens go off and he just leaves. The second time, you come to, like, you're fighting him, you're running around fighting him, avoiding him mostly. And you kind of come to grips with what you've done. And then they both kill themselves because you're, like, releasing them, your mind, you're coming to terms with it with yourself, and then they go away. Angela is there because, like, her father, like, sexually assaulted her, I think, a bunch. Not I think, but that happened in a bunch. And the mother anything about it, kind of just let it go. But she still loves her mother. And I think it's the abstract daddy you fight. Which I guess James would have seen this, but it's pretty much supposed to be a bed with two people like sealed in a bed with like legs. Pretty much representing her dad and Angela. But hers is probably the saddest part of the game, actually, because towards the end you get to the hotel and you see her, and all of a sudden she's walking up these stairs and there's flames everywhere. And James like, what are you doing? You know, it's so hot. It's more implied that he can feel it. The heat from the flames, not necessarily see them. But Angela's like, oh, do you see that? It's like this for me all the time. Pretty much like she's living in a hell all the time. And she just walks up the stairs. You never see her again. She's pretty much dead, I assume. I don't think you come across her. Like I said, it's been a while since I played that part in the game. And that's like really almost hard. It's actually very heartbreaking. But there's just tons of themes in it and stuff. Like I said, I'm not gonna be able to remember every little thing, but the nurses, the sexy looking nurses with the messed up faces and stuff. That's when he's taking care of his wife in the hospital and stuff, he like yearned for these nurses he would see. So they're there. I forget what the dudes that have like the straight jacket look are meant to represent. There's not a ton of enemies in it. And the game, I'm not even talking about the atmosphere yet. I'm excited to see what the remake does. Because the atmosphere is creepy as hell. Like I said, there's fog. That was kind of used to offset some of the limitations of PS2. It's a great looking game for its time, too. It doesn't even look that bad nowadays. Really creepy atmosphere. You have your flashlight. It's always like super dark, except when you're in the town. And the fog is there, you can see. And then it goes to its nightmare version when the sirens go, and that's when more enemies come and stuff. And that's when it gets really dark, and it's like you're not seeing much of anything. Pyramid Head's lurking around. He first appears in the hotel. You see him on the other side of these bars, kind of barely. And then he appears again when he's like raping one of the mannequin things. The legs on top and the legs on bottom one. Which is just more of like James' sexual desires. And Pyramid Head has the great knife that you can actually get as a weapon at one point, but it's like pointless to carry it around because it takes so long to actually swing it. And if you get hit with that thing, you're done. If one kills you, one hit kills you. But it's just an amazing game. Like, it's super creepy. Of course, if you played it now, you might not find it as much because the graphics are 20 plus years old. That's why I want to see what the remake does. I mean, when you go to the underground prison under the lake, when you go through the museum or whatever, there's just weird noises everywhere. It's like, and there's like stuff crawling around in the jail cell, so you can barely even make out. It's really well done. There's some weird puzzles that don't make sense, and it's like this in a lot of survival horror games and these kind of games in general. You gotta use like a baby doll melted into a, iron, like weird stuff to open a random indentation in a door. The hospital's super creepy. Like I said, the underground thing is the hotel is pretty creepy, but it's probably the least creepiest. I'm saying the hotel at the end. I'm sorry, the apartments. It's not the hotel in the beginning too. It's an apartment. Did I say apartments? It's the apartments you're in. That's like the first main thing when you first see Pyramid Heads. First main thing you search through is the apartments. And you also run around town and stuff. You end up in a bowling alley very briefly, where Laura's there with Eddie, and Laura's like berating him. And he somehow has a pizza. He must have manifested that out of his brain. But it has like all these other people have different stories for being there and stuff, and it's just super creepy. There's different endings based on some really bizarre, like not bizarre, but strange things you do. Like Angela gives you a knife early on, and you hold it. You can choose to give it back to her or keep it. And if you keep looking at it throughout the game, that plays into a certain ending you'll get. Maria takes too much damage, gets hit too much throughout the game, that will play into it. If you stick close to her and stuff, like you don't run too far off from her, and you stick close to her and protect her, that plays into an ending. There's a lot of crazy stuff. There's the suicide ending where you take Mary's body and just drive into the lake. There's the good ending where you take Laura home, you come to grips with everything, and you make peace with everything. And you take Laura and leave the town. There's the ending, the sick ending where you leave with Maria, and you're leaving and Maria starts to cough, signaling she's going to suffer the same fate that Mary did. I think there's just the 3, and then there's 2 weird ones. I did not get all these games. These endings. I think I got 2 different ones. I got the leave one, and I think the leave is the normal one. I think, and then the one with Maria. But I watched the other one. They have the one with the aliens. Because I guess the first one had an ending where UFOs come and take. What's his name? In the first, I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. He played his dad. Harry. Is it Harry? And he appears with the aliens again, and they take James as well. And then the best ending is the one where James stumbles into this control room, and a dog has got a headset on. He's pulling controls and stuff, and he's controlling everything that's happening in Silent Hill. And James comes in, he's like, "It was you the whole time." He falls to his knees, and then the dog licks him, and the game ends. You have to do like all types of random, bizarre things and find certain things to do that. But it's a cool exploration game. Like every survival horror game, you're finding stuff. You're finding notes about weird stuff that's happening in the town. Like it's super creepy. Honestly, the combat's not great, but I wouldn't expect it to be. It's just a creepy atmosphere with a fantastic story. Like, I think story-wise, the 4 has a better story than the 1 and 3. 1 and 3 is fine, but it involves like a cult and stuff like that. And then there's Homecoming and Downpour. I even forget Downpour's story. Origins just takes place before the first game, and the truck driver comes across the kid that goes disappearing in the first one eventually. Because Harry adopts her. I forget. You fight a wannabe pyramid head in that one. He had like a bag, it was like a square over his head. That was actually a pretty creepy game, though. I played that on the PSP. I can't remember Downpour's thing. The hook was the rain, though. That game had some cool parts on my old channel, buried under cliches. I showed a part where you go into a house and it's like, it plays out like, I forget what it is. Like Hansel and Gretel or something. It's like weird, it's interesting. There's a little Easter egg to Silent Hill 4 in that one too, where you can sneak up a thing and you go into a room and it's the apartment. You see the door chained up. I really like 4 though. 4's got a really good story too. 4's got a really bizarre story. Like, I can't remember everything about 4, unfortunately, but Walter Sullivan's mentioned, but you see him as a kid. I think it's him as a kid, and then he like there's an ending where he goes to sleep in the room because he's like treating he lived in the apartment you're in, and he treats the room as the apartment as like his mother. That's very, very strange. But 2's fantastic. I love 2. Do yourself a favor and play it if you haven't, even though I've ruined it. I'm kind of excited about that remake. And the voice acting's not that great, but honestly, it fits the game. It's really not that great. It's not terrible, but it's almost for the times, honestly, and I think it almost is fitting for the game. I'm probably forgetting some stuff, but I know some of the enemies you like fight in the hospital, they grab you. The one boss fight. These things are grabbing you from above, trying to strangle you, and then you fight a demented version of Mary on like a roof at the end where she's in her hospital bed and these things are coming out. Now endings are weird there too, like that plays out differently too, where I think Maria could if Maria's still there, I think you get the one ending. If she's gone, you're not gonna get it. It was a cool game that had those things in it. It had different endings, but it wasn't even laid out to you how you would get those endings. You would just almost do things in the game. Like maybe you happen to look at that knife in your inventory 5 or 6 times, and all of a sudden that triggers something in the game. It's crazy how that worked. It actually was pretty groundbreaking, that game, to be honest with you. And just a fantastic story. Like, it's one of those games early on where you could be like, yes, video games can be art, like, look at this, they can have a great story. I know the dude, Christopher Gans, is making another Silent Hill movie, and it's supposed to be based on 2. Just do what they're doing with The Last of Us show and pretty much have it almost exact. They're doing some different things in The Last of Us show, but just don't. The first Silent Hill movie I thought was decent. The look of it was incredible. Some of the acting was awful, and the story was okay, but Pyramid Head, of course, was in that. Now you could have him in a second movie. Just make it like the game. Do some little changes here and there, but make it like the game. Minimal cast. You have Angela, you have Eddie, you have Laura, you have Maria, you have James. And you'd have Mary in some flashbacks. And someone playing Pyramid Head. And the other creatures. But anyway, yeah, that's a ramble about Silent Hill there. Silent Hill 2 there a bit. Request and some GameCube mic sounds. And thanks everybody for checking this out. And have a good day.